Now tonight, the FBI announced this very short notice press conference. They said to alert the American people about some serious election security matter. And we think these vote Trump or else emails were what they were talking about, but it's hard to know. They never actually said what they were talking about. 2 of the 4 officials who stood up there at the podium didn't talk at all. None of them took any questions whatsoever, which means it wasn't a press conference. It was just a press release they read out loud. The FBI director was one of only 2 officials who spoke at this event this evening, and he said substantively nothing. He just spoke in vague generalities about how hard the FBI is working to make sure everything's cool in the election, and you should call them if you see a crime. He said nothing specifically about what's happened here at all. What we got at this odd not press conference was a written statement read aloud by the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, who was recently appointed by President Trump. What he delivered in the statement was definitely some drama, right? Less than 2 weeks from the election, this short notice press conference on an urgent election security matter, there's drama to that. But when it comes to what he actually communicated, frankly, nobody actually knows what he was talking about.
We would like to alert the public that we have identified that 2 foreign actors, Iran and Russia, have taken specific actions to influence public opinion relating to our elections. First, we have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia. This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in American democracy. To that end, we have already seen Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump. You may have seen some reporting on this in the last 24 hours, or you may have even been one of the recipients of those emails.
What are you talking about? Spit it out. I mean, this is the newly appointed Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, who up until now has had a little trouble remembering that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence is not supposed to be an arm of the Trump campaign. I mean, we assume that what he's talking about here is these intimidating vote Trump or else emails that were sent to Democratic registered voters in Florida and in numerous other states. But maybe that's not what he's talking about. I mean, why would you look at those vote Trump or else emails and describe them as an effort to damage President Trump? I mean, these are threatening emails literally telling Democratic registered voters that if they don't vote for Trump, a violent far-right group of Trump supporters is going to come after them and hurt them. And by the way, we know where you live. How is that an effort to damage President Trump? The Director of National Intelligence is calling this an attack by Iran. At least I think this is what he's describing as an attack by Iran. But he also said it's designed to hurt President Trump when clearly this is designed to do the opposite. So maybe he's talking about something else altogether. We don't know. He never explained. Substantively, in terms of what else was said at this dramatic press conference, this was the whole rest of it.
Additionally, Iran is distributing other content to include a video that implies that individuals could cast fraudulent ballots, even from overseas. This video and any claims about such allegedly fraudulent ballots are not true. Although we have not seen the same actions from Russia, we are aware that they have obtained some voter information just as they did in 2016. Rest assured that we are prepared for the possibility of actions by those hostile to democracy. We are standing before you now to give you the confidence that we are on top of this.
We are on top of this, but we are not going to say what this is. We're not going to say what Russia did at all. We're going to characterize it as something that's just like they did in 2016. We're going to say that this attack that we are attributing to Iran, which we're not going to describe, was designed to hurt President Trump. But we think from public reporting that what they're describing is an attack that was designed to hurt people who might vote against President Trump. I mean, what the heck is this? To be honest, I sort of expect this kind of mishigas from Director Ratcliffe, given his track record thus far as DNI. But why did the FBI director stand there for this? As well as the Justice Department official and the Homeland Security official who stood there as well. A, why didn't they speak? B, why did none of them take questions? What's going on?